Hello students and welcome back to the class. Today we are going to discuss under the Indian Contract Act the concept of free consent. Section 10 of the Indian Contract Act lays down one of the conditions of a contract to be a valid contract, that a free consent has to be there of the parties. Consent means that both the parties are agreeing to enter into that contract. Free consent means that they are willingly doing so. So they are not doing it under any pressure, they are not doing it under any mistake, they are not doing it due to somebody's influence. They are willingly, through their own will, after understanding the contract completely, they are giving their affirmation to enter into the contract. That is what we mean by free consent. So two or more persons are said to consent when they agree upon the same thing in the same sense. So this same sense is again very important as per section 13. It says there must be consensus ad idem, which is meeting of minds, that while entering the contract, both the parties are thinking on the same lines. Both the parties are aware of what they are doing. So we have taken an example over here that there's a person A who has two plots of land. Now this one plot of land is situated in Delhi and the another plot of land is situated in Himachal. Now this person, he goes to person B and says that I want to sell my plot of land for this much amount. He gives the amount and says I want to sell off my plot of land. Now he does not specify which plot of land, whether the one in Himachal or the one situated in Delhi. And B also does not ask and simply agrees to it that okay, I will buy your plot of land. Now later on it comes to the knowledge of both of them that A was talking about selling the plot of land which is situated in Himachal, although B, when said yes, he thought that he is talking about the plot of land in Delhi. And due to this, because they both were not on the same platform, they both were not thinking on the same lines, it will be held in such a case that there is no consent. यहाँ पे consent है ही नहीं. Forget about the free consent. अभी यहाँ पे हम अभी सिर्फ consent की बात कर रहे हैं. So herein, because both the parties were not interpreting the things in the same sense, there was no meeting of minds, so it will be held that there is no consent in this, that thus this agreement is not valid. Then this is another case of Baladevi versus S. Majumdar. Herein there was an illiterate woman. She signed a paper which was actually a gift deed for her property to her nephew. While signing the paper, she was under the assumption that this paper authorizes her nephew, gives an authorization to her nephew that he will be taking care of her property. Right? So she was only giving that authorization, but actually it was a gift deed. Gift deed का मतलब हुआ कि वो nephew के नाम पर हो गई property. It has been transferred to the nephew in his name. She thought she is just authorizing the taking care of her lands, of her property. Now, when the case was filed, the court said through the evidence it was proved, and the court held that, you know, this old lady, this illiterate lady, she never intended to execute a gift deed. उसको किसी ने उसको पढ़ना नहीं आता था. Nobody told her that what is written in this paper. Nobody explained it to her what is the meaning of this. तो उसकी assumption ये थी, उसने ये मान के कि मैं authorization दे रही हूँ, paper sign किया था. So the court held that this deed was void and inoperative because there was no meeting of minds. Now what do we mean by free consent? This has been defined in section 14 of the Indian Contract Act, and it says that consent is said to be free when it is not caused by any of these. So if none of these is in play and still the consent is there, then it is a free consent, which means if the consent is caused because of coercion, undue influence, fraud, misrepresentation or mistake, then it is not a free consent. So you in the court of law, if we want to set aside the contract on the basis that free consent was not there, as a party I will have to prove that my consent was taken due to one of these. At least one of these was in picture, at least one of these was existing due to which I gave my consent. अगर ऐसा नहीं होता, say for example, if I am saying that I signed this contract or I entered into this contract because of coercion, then I'll have to prove that if this coercion was not there, then I would not have entered into the contract. Now, all these 5 points, what do we mean by coercion? What all circumstances would be included in this? What would be the impact of this? All this has been defined in the Indian Contract Act. Similarly, for undue influence, fraud, misrepresentation, mistake, what kind of mistakes can be there? What do we mean by misrepresentation? When would the fraud take place? What can the parties do? All this has been given in the Indian Contract Act, which we will be discussing one by one, right, in the upcoming classes. Today we will be first talking about the basic concept of this free consent, and we will be focusing on the first point, which is the coercion. Now, when the free consent is not there because the reasons is first four, that means it is either not a free consent because of coercion, or because of undue influence, or because of fraud, or because of misrepresentation, the first 4 points mentioned, then the impact of this is that the contract becomes voidable. It is not a void contract, it is not a valid contract, it becomes a voidable contract. That means it can become a valid contract, it can become a void contract, depending upon what is the decision of the aggrieved party. So if I am one of the parties to the contract, my consent has been taken with coercion. ठीक है, coercion का क्या मतलब होता है? जबरदस्ती, forcefully आपसे consent लिया गया. So if my consent has been taken with coercion, or it has been due to undue influence or fraud or misrepresentation, then I have this right that I can set aside that contract. I can go to the court of law, I will have to prove that my consent was not a free consent, and then if I can prove that, then I have the right that I can set aside that contract, I can rescind that contract. Or if I feel that, okay, although my consent has been taken with coercion, but I still want to go ahead with that contract, I will go ahead with that contract, and it automatically becomes a valid contract. So that is why we say that if the contract is not having free consent because of the first 4 reasons, it becomes a voidable contract. The aggrieved party has to decide whether they want to set aside the contract and go to the court of law, or they want to carry on with the contract and make it a valid contract. Now, if the consent is caused by a mistake, which is the 5th point, in this case, depending upon what kind of mistake it is, which we will be reading, starting in the upcoming lessons, if the mistake is unilateral, if the mistake is bilateral, whether the mistake is related to the attribute, whether the mistake is related to the person with whom you are entering into the contract, there are various variants of mistake. So depending upon that, either the contract can be a valid contract under certain circumstances, it can be a void contract, or it can be a voidable contract. So all the 3 options are possible depending upon what kind of mistake we are dealing with. So in short, if we see till now what we have said, that what are the flaws in consent, what all things are there which can make it an unfree consent: coercion, section 15, undue influence, section 16, fraud, section 17, misrepresentation, section 18, and the impact of all these, section 15, 16, 17, 18, have been given in section 19 and 19A, which tells us the effect on the contract because of these 4, that it will become a voidable contract. Then we have mistake, which is the 5th point, and the effect on the contract because of the mistake. Mistake has been dealt on in with section 20, 21 and 22, and the effect on the contract because of mistake can be valid, void or voidable. Right? So this is what we have learnt till now, and now we will be starting the discussion on all 5 of them one by one. So we'll be starting off with the coercion. Coercion is defined in section 15. Coercion, I have told you in simple terms, it means that forcefully your consent has been taken. जोर जबरदस्ती से आपका consent लिया गया है. It can be due to anything. It can be at a gunpoint. It can be by threatening to harm you. It can be by threatening to harm your property. So any kind of such thing will lead to coercion. So what does it say? That coercion is either committing anything that is forbidden by Indian Penal Code or threatening to commit certain such thing. So if somebody harms you and takes your consent, that means committing a forbidden thing, or threatens to harm you in future if you do not enter the contract. This is coercion. Similarly, if there is unlawful detainment of your property or threat to detain your property in future, that is also not allowed. That is again going to be the coercion. So if any such things are there, it will lead to the coercion as per section 15 of the Indian Contract Act. Now what are the features of coercion? First is whether you are committing or threatening to commit any act which is forbidden by the Indian Penal Code. This is one of the cases, very old case. Herein there was a widow of 13 years of age. It is a very old case. उस समय पर child marriage होती थी. So this was a girl, a very young girl, a child in fact of 13 years of age, whose husband died, and the relatives, they were forcing her that she will have to adopt a boy, right? Otherwise they will not take her husband's body for cremation if she does not agree. So it was held that herein the consent was not the free consent. Obviously at that time she agreed to adopt the boy because she had no other choice. But when the case was filed, the court held that the consent was under the coercion, because the way the relatives, they threatened that they will not remove the dead body if she does not agree. This is a forbidden crime under the Indian Penal Code. Then if there is unlawful detaining or threatening to detain of any property, so again we have a case of Muthia versus Muthukarupan. Herein again it is a case between principal and agent. There was principal-agent relationship. Now the agent refused to hand over the books of accounts to the new agent. The principal had fired this agent and had appointed a new agent. So this old agent refused to hand over the files to the new agent unless he was released from all his liabilities. So he wanted his principal to give in writing that he will not be having any more liabilities even for his past deeds. If any liability arises even for his past deeds, he won't be held responsible for that. Otherwise, I will not give your books, I will not hand over the books of accounts to the new agent. Now, because the books of accounts were required, so at that time the principal had to give it in writing, had to sign a deed releasing him from all his liabilities. But later on in the court it was held that this has been taken under coercion, क्योंकि आपने उनकी प्रॉपर्टी, उनकी जो बुक्स ऑफ अकाउंट्स है उसको आपने डिटेन कर रखा था, अनलॉफुली डिटेन कर रखा था. Once you have been fired as an agent, you have to return back the books of accounts. You are not doing that. That means you are unlawfully holding somebody's property, which is not allowed. Then the next feature is about the place of coercion. Now the Indian Contract Act says that whether the Indian Penal Code is enforceable at the place where coercion is taking place or not, it is immaterial. So it might be possible that the place where coercion has taken place, वहां पर इंडियन पीनल कोड एप्लीकेबल नहीं है, लेकिन अगर कोई भी केस इंडियन कोर्ट में फाइल होता है, इंडिया में फाइल होता है, तो सेक्शन 15 उसके ऊपर एप्लीकेबल होगा. हो सकता है कि कोर्जन कहीं और हुई हो, कॉन्ट्रैक्ट यहाँ पे इंडिया में आके फाइनलाइज हुआ हो, सो इट बिकम्स एन इंडियन केस. सो इफ इट इज बीइंग फाइल्ड इन इंडिया, the coercion may have taken somewhere else. That can still be a ground for making the contract voidable. Coercion may be from the party to the agreement or stranger. Now this and the next point, they're related and they are important to understand. First, we are saying that who is doing the coercion, right? So it can be from the same party who is a party to the contract, or it can be from a third person, right? सेम पार्टी का क्या मतलब हुआ कि दो पार्टीज हैं जिन्होंने कॉन्ट्रैक्ट में एंटर करना है, एक ने दूसरे को कहा कि अगर तुमने मेरे साथ कॉन्ट्रैक्ट एंटर नहीं किया आई विल फोर्सफुली डिटेन योर प्रॉपर्टी। तो वहां पे वही दोनों पार्टीज इन्वॉल्व हैं कोर्जन में भी, जो दो पार्टीज कॉन्ट्रैक्ट के लिए हैं। थर्ड पार्टी कैसे इन्वॉल्व हो सकती है, जैसे हमने यहाँ एग्जाम्पल लिया दैट ए थ्रेटन्स टू किल बी इफ ही डज नॉट सेल हिज हाउस टू सी। सो कॉन्ट्रैक्ट किसके बीच में होना है, बी और सी के बीच में होना है। उस कॉन्ट्रैक्ट में ए इज अ स्ट्रेंजर बट ए इज गिविंग अ थ्रेट, देन ऑल्सो this will be taken as the coercion and unfree consent. So the coercion can come from a third party as well. Similarly, against whom the coercion is taking place, it can be on the party who is a party to the contract, or it can be for some third person, for some stranger. So there are two parties to the contract. Say for example अगर हम ऊपर वाला ही केस लें तो B और C जो हैं, right, ए ने कहा, क्या कहा, ए ने बी से कहा, बी को कहा दैट आई विल किल यू इफ यू डू नॉट सेल आउट विद इन दिस अमाउंट टू सी। तो यहाँ पे बी को ही थ्रेटन किया जा रहा है। नाउ इट इज ऑल्सो पॉसिबल कि बी को डायरेक्टली थ्रेटन ना करके किसी और को थ्रेटन किया जाए हु इज नियर एंड डियर वन ऑफ बी। सो in the next example that we are saying, we say A threatens to kill B's wife if he does not sell his house to A. Right, so herein he is not threatening B but somebody who is close to B. So the coercion can be from the party to agreement or a stranger. Coercion can be directed at a party to the agreement or a stranger. It still amounts to coercion and this will be an unfree consent, and on the basis of this the contract can become voidable. Then is the intention of the party. So the intention of applying coercion has to be that you wanted the person to enter into the agreement. So the act of coercion that is being done, its intention has to be seen that this coercion must have been done so that the person enters into the contract. Then there is a point related to threat to commit suicide. Now earlier under the Indian Penal Code it was a punishable offense. Under the Indian Penal Code, we have two kinds of offences. One offences are which are forbidden, कि आप ये नहीं कर सकते हो, although there might not be any punishment as such for them, but they are forbidden. And there are certain acts which are punishable. So, committing suicide, trying to commit suicide, all this earlier used to be a punishable offense. But now it is no more a punishable offense after certain amendments, because there have been a lot of discussions that if a person is committing suicide, actually that person might be suffering for with some mental disorders or some mental illness, and actually requires a doctor, a psychiatrist to calm him down, to calm her down, to bring them back to their normal life. So it has been removed from being a punishable offense, but it is still forbidden, right? It is not an act which has been accepted that you can do it. It is still a forbidden act under the law, and because it is forbidden, so it will amount to coercion. So if somebody threatens that if you do not do this particular act, I'll commit a suicide, and under that pressure somebody enters into a particular contract, then that is not a free consent. What will be the effect of coercion? As I said, it has been given in section 19. First, the contract becomes voidable at the option of the party whose consent has been obtained by coercion. So this party has the right, they can either go ahead with the contract, that means affirm the contract, or they can rescind the contract, that means they can set aside the contract. So the right is in hand of the party whose consent has been taken under coercion. Now, if you go to the court of law, who will be proving that it has been forcefully done? The party who wants to set aside the contract. The party who is saying that my consent was not a free consent, that party only will have to prove that why my consent was not free consent. The burden of proof will lie on that particular party, and the principle of restitution will be applicable over here. So if say I am going to the court of law and I am saying that my consent was not free consent, it was taken under coercion, and I want this to resign this contract. If I have received any benefit till now under that contract, I will have to return it. So say for example, I have been made to enter into a contract to sell my car under coercion for say 15,000 rupees, and I go to the court of law and I say I want to set aside this contract, do not want to sell my car, and I'm able to prove it, then the court will set aside the contract. And if till now I have received any money, maybe they have already given me 5,000 or 10,000 as token money कि 15,000 की आप कार बेच रहे हो, 10,000 rupees हम आपको अभी दे रहे हैं, वो 10,000 rupees अगर मेरे पास है तो as per principle of restitution I will have to return back those 10,000 rupees. So this is the effect on the contract if the consent has been taken with coercion. We will end up our class today over here, and in the next class we will be moving on to the next kind of thing which can lead to an unfree consent.